Okay, so if you just want to state your name and your position.
Hi, I'm Chad Thom, and I work for Madison School and Community Recreation.
Okay. How did you get into this career?
Well, it's a long story, but I've always wanted to work with people, so I knew I wanted to do something like that. And in high school, I used to volunteer on Saturdays. Um, a lot of it was in a private high school, so a lot of us they promoted that we volunteer, and so I used to volunteer with kids with cognitive disabilities from a nearby institution, and so we'd bus there and we'd take them roller skating and we'd do fun stuff with them, and I just enjoyed that so much. I knew that I wanted to do more of it, and so in high school I took some psychology classes, and then in college, I took a lot. I took more psychology. I majored in psychology, and then I had some other minors. But I knew I knew I wanted to be in the helping field. Um, but I decided I was going to be a developmental psychologist and get my master's and doctorate in that. But I just decided that I didn't want to go that far into psychology after my bachelor's. So I've always enjoyed recreation. I have 12 brothers and sisters.
Oh, wow.
So we were always playing, doing something. I was a very active kid. And so I knew I would enjoy that field. And so I decided to get a master's degree in therapeutic recreation. So I did
Okay.
I have a bachelor's and then I have a 2-year master's.
Okay.
So.
What does a typical day look like for you?
Every day is very different. Some days I come into work and say, boy, what am I going to do today? Because it is that different. It's like, when you're caught up, you say, okay, what am I going to do today? So I always, even after 35 years, I do a to-do list, and I have a task list, and I have a weekly and monthly and year-long calendar. So I'm always looking forward. Like this last week or so, we've been working on our winter brochure, organizing programs that I'll show you, some of the programs that we offer to people with disabilities. And so we've been working on our winter schedule, and I've been working on what's the schedule for downhill skiing and the schedule for this. So we're putting together, typing up information that would go into our program guide that would then we send to the public and get them to register. So there's staffing issues almost every day, meaning scheduling and rescheduling. There might be staffing issues, like I have a staff the other day that wasn't communicating very well. So you're following up on issues all the time, a lot of problem solving. This morning I ordered T-shirts from my boating program for next summer already. So
Oh, wow.
we kind of do things in the fall that prep us for future seasons because we get really busy in some months. So you always have to be looking forward. So then there's budget. There's so probably the budget, staffing, brochure, and supplies are the big things. But structuring programs or restructuring programs, making them better. Like I'm working right now. Just before you came in, I was working on where do I want to move some soccer programs because I don't like a few of the sites that my soccer programs have. I just would like sites that are maintained better, basically. And so I'm looking at different choices, parks that I could, look at for that. So all sorts of stuff. I could probably go on. I could probably talk about for 3 hours with that question. So.
What do you like most about what you do?
Well, I think that variety. I mean, I tell that to everybody. Because really, I don't know sometimes what will happen the next day, and so that's challenging. Even with my years of experience, you kind of go into each day as a fresh experience, and so that's the way I kind of look at it. I try to keep myself fresh that way. I'm always looking forward to new things, and can I create something new? Can I improve something that is already there that would help the community? So, so the variety is very much. I do work across types of disabilities too. So, I've worked with people with physical disabilities, vision impaired, hearing impaired, cognitive disabilities, emotional disabilities, behavioral disabilities, and so that keeps me fresh. Like I'm working on a goal ball program right now for the vision impaired. It's a sport for the vision impaired. So, and that we hope that that'll start in November. So I've been marketing that and trying to find a staff for that. So, and that's new.
I've actually tried goalball before.
Oh, really?
It's a fun sport. It's a
Oh.
little bit difficult for me to do with my physical disability.
Yeah.
Can you
lay down on the floor though, or no?
I can lay down.
Oh.
It was just more of like the moving kind of
okay.
deal that was a little bit challenging for me. But it was.
Can you use your legs? Or no, not?
No.
Oh, okay. So you'd have to kind of push
with my
push
arms.
with your arms. Yeah, that'd be a little harder. Yeah.
Yes. What is your biggest challenge with this drug?
Well, I think probably budget. I'm a strong believer in equity, and I believe that all people should have access to public recreation, and so I feel that I'm a very strong spokesperson for people with disabilities. My master's again is in therapeutic recreation, which is recreation for people with disabilities, and so I've always enjoyed that work, but our department hasn't always prioritized the budget for people with disabilities, even though I've asked for that. So there's always different projects that the department wants to do. We're a big department where we serve all ages, seniors through youth. So, and there's 50 full-time staff. So we're all voicing what we think the department needs and what the budget, what we should do with the budget. So it's challenging. But right now, though, over the last few years of work, I, along with the department, have decided that one of our major goals is helping get more adults with disabilities into our programs, across our programs, swimming and sports and everything that we offer. Plus, I'm adding new things like the Goal Ball program. That's why I'm working on that, because we're working on more services for adults. And you may be interested. I'm also, I just met with this gentleman, I'm going to blank his name, but a person with a physical disability in the community. And he has like a form of MS, I believe, but he has to use adapted bicycles and things like that because he can't bike too far with his legs. But he can walk a little bit, but not for real long distances. And so he has an adapted, hand-powered bicycle. So we're talking about developing a road racing program and maybe wheelchair tennis. Okay. So yeah, so that's a couple more things I'm working on right now.
What challenges might I, as someone with a physical disability, face in a career like this?
I don't think anything that would be insurmountable. I think you'd have to, of course, ask the employer that for good physical access in the building, that your office building, but most places now are pretty good. But if it's an older building like Hoyt has some issues, so I think that'd be one of the issues. Is kind of I think you'd have to talk to your employer about access, but you've got your good upper body, so you won't have any problems with reading and writing and all that type of thing. I think it'd just be probably physical access for you.
Okay. What hours do you work in a week? Are you usually working weekdays, weekends, variation?
It is a variation, but I mean there's some regularity to it. It's basically Monday through Friday, and I generally get in at about 8:15 and work till about 4:30. But there's some weeks have evening meetings. Sometimes I have to work on a Saturday or Sunday. I do have programming that's 7 days a week. Like in the summer, my boating program is 7 days a week. It's Sunday through Saturday. So I'm really on call all the time. I mean, if an emergency happens, I'll get a call. So, I mean, I could go out and visit a program on the weekend. So, and sometimes I don't do a lot of that, but it's very varied. So the other day I spoke to the Lioness Club, for instance. That was an evening meeting on Monday night at a dinner meeting. and they just wanted a speaker on services for the blind. So I went and talked to them about what I'm working on for Goalball. And so that was an evening, that was like 6 to 8 p.m. So that day I just worked extra hours. You know, I still came in at 8:15 and had an evening meeting. So I'd say I'm working between 40 to 50 hours a week, every week, based on the week. And I'm on salary, so I get paid for 40.
Okay.
So.
Okay, and how much do you make in a year?
I make $96,000 a year after 35 years.
Okay. So what do you think might be a starting salary, or what was your starting salary?
My starting salary here was 1980 was $17,000 a year.
Okay.
So
I'm sure that went a lot farther then than it would now.
Yes, yeah. It was still though a basic level, a basic
Okay.
entry professional level
Okay.
at that point. So I think it depends on where you work. You can, like we have some positions here called specialists, and they're kind of in charge of a certain area, like arts for youth, or arts for adults, or whatever. So they're hired that way to manage a specialty area, but they start at 45 or 50,000 now. So
Okay.
so it depends on where you're at. A smaller city like Verona might pay you less, or pay an entry level person less than a bigger city like Madison or Milwaukee.
Okay.
So it does depend on the type of agency, what the size of city, their budget, how big their budget is, if they're having any budget issues. I mean, probably a lot of things that can go into that. So.
Okay. And you had mentioned earlier that you got a master's degree in recreational therapy.
Yes.
I am currently working towards a degree in recreation management, and it's just an associate's degree.
Yeah.
Where might I be able to fit into a program like this with just an associate's degree?
Well, we can hire you today, but we've got part-time. I mean, in part-time positions, you could apply for a full-time job here at MSCR. You have to watch for the openings, but you could apply for those specialist positions. So we would look at anybody that's in the recreation field for most of our jobs. Now, it just depends on the applicant pool. If you have a 2-year degree, mm-hmm. and 15 other of the folks have a bachelor's degree, right. You'll be at a little disadvantage.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you wouldn't get it
Okay.
if you have good experience.
Let's say you would also look at somebody's personal experience as well.
We would. I mean, okay. That's what I do. I look at what your background is. Do you have volunteer work too? What did you do in high school? What kind of clubs were you in? How active were you? What have you done in other areas? What kind of jobs have you had? What's your schooling? And just who you are, too. Mm-hmm. And I think we would, for someone like yourself, we would take into consideration affirmative action. We do not have a lot of, I can't think of a full-time person that has a disability. One of our secretaries is hearing impaired, but she has enough hearing that she uses an amplifier. And there might be someone else that I don't know what their disability is, but so we actually would have room for that, and I think a public agency like us would take that into consideration. So I think you would have some advantage there. But a 2-year degree gets you into the door. But if you like the area, if you do find a job and you get into it, you might want to consider getting a bachelor's at some point.
Okay.
Milwaukee, UW Milwaukee or UW La Crosse have programs. So
Does Milwaukee have one? I was just aware that only La Crosse had a bachelor's degree.
Well, they used to. I'd have to kind of double check that, but
because I was looking online and I noticed that they do have certificates that I could get, but not
at Milwaukee.
At Milwaukee for recreational therapy, but not necessarily a degree. Like they wouldn't be handing me necessarily a diploma.
Maybe they call it something else now, but they used to have a program there, and even UW Madison, used to offer some recreation classes. I don't think there's a degree, but I think there's some related classes that you can take there. I don't know. I haven't looked into that recently, so I'm not positive what they offer right now. So, but I just tell people to kind of search around for recreational therapy. There's some good schools in Illinois and not too far away, so you might have to move for some of that. But Illinois has one of the strongest community recreation programs statewide in the country. So there's more jobs in this field in Illinois than in Wisconsin. But Wisconsin's getting better, but we're not at Illinois' level. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today and for answering all of my questions.
No problem. Glad I met you. So do you want